Warning: the episode you are about to listen to most likely contains graphic language, details of violence and murder, and may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
What's up, everybody? Happy Thursday.
Hey there. Happy Thursday, posse.
Happy what?
Happy Thursday, posse.
Posse, yes. I thought you said happy Thursday, pussy. I was like, oh, God. We're just jumping right into this.
Right into the inappropriate being that I am.
Well, why does anyone even listen to us?
Yeah, I don't know.
Probably just strictly.
I don't actually know if they do, but...
Well, if they do, it's probably for the inappropriate banter that I have with my mother. So, hey guys.
So, we are here now, just entering the end of March, and of course, any of you that are living in British Columbia will know that yesterday, actually now be a couple days ago because we're pretending it's Thursday.
Yeah, we're living in the moment.
We have gone back down to tighter COVID restrictions, no eating indoors anymore, no indoor exercise, no indoor religious services. What else?
I don't know, but I know it's really important right now. Obviously, yeah, it sucks, but we have to kind of make the best of it and make sure, I mean, we're supporting restaurants even if we can't eat there, you know, try to order takeout, eat at home, try to make, this whole couple of years has been like ad-libbing life. So it's like, take it as it comes.
It's so weird too because, I mean, it was the same time last year when all of this started, and it was weird last year because when it started, we were all so thrown by it, and I automatically turned into an alcoholic. Like, I started drinking, like, I was buying, like, a box of red and a box of white.
I don't think you're alone in that, though, because
I think a lot of people were. And, you know, it was the first urge that I had yesterday when I heard this. And I actually have known a lot of close people this week that have been very sadly affected by COVID. So when all this came down the pipe yesterday, my first instinct was like, I gotta go get some fucking wine. But I did not do that because I've since worked myself out of that habit.
Yeah.
But I mean, just that stress alone shows you what kind of headspace this is all putting us in.
Yeah, and the thing too is if you're used to going for something in a time of obviously
self-medicating.
Yeah, you're self-medicating, but I mean, good for you because that means that you're kind of making changes and you're probably doing a lot of other work on yourself. And I think that's the thing for a lot of other people who are kind of just taking this as it comes. And obviously, yeah, it sucks, but you kind of have to be, I don't know, you have to kind of go with the flow because really we all want this to end. Nobody wants to be in the pandemic. Everyone wants it to be over. But
well, and I just think like it's so much unsurety right now with not knowing like what's next. Like, okay, we had this hope of like we're getting vaccinated, and then we had
now don't take that vaccine.
Yeah,
don't take that
don't
vaccine.
take that one that you just got yesterday. And then it's like, okay, now there's variants, and now the variants might not work, and like all of this stuff that's going on. It's just mind-boggling. Like, it's completely 100% mind-boggling, and it's making us reach deeper within. Most of us, I think, have kind of come full circle in this last year. But yeah, when this came down again yesterday, I was just like, it threw me automatically into the beginning stages of feelings that I was having at the beginning, it was kind of cool to sit back and observe that and not go through with it, for sure.
Yeah, no, good for you. And I mean, whatever you guys have to do to get through, just remember, you know, pop on a good podcast, Murder with My Mother, whatever, you know, do whatever you need to zen out, have a bath, you know, that's what really helps for me. Do some writing,
I've been meditating,
exercise, meditating. Oh, meditating's awesome, especially when, you know, you are having a hard time being alone with your thoughts. It is really good to try to work on that and kind of make it something that comes more organically and more naturally, and clearly that's, you know, you're working through your shit. Good job.
Even if you fall asleep when you meditate like I do every single time. It's relaxing me.
Yeah, I mean, that's what they kind of say that the first step of sleeping is anyway, is like a meditative state. And then you go to sleep.
That beautiful state where you don't know if something's real or it's not, and you're just kind of floating around, you know, like that.
I gotta get what you're taking before you meditate. But yeah, no, I do agree. That is exactly how I feel, like euphoric, right? So, yeah.
Until you fall and then fuck!
Yeah, and then you have the falling dream. we, again, hope you guys just, try to stay safe out there. That's just the main part. Keep our oldies safe and keep everybody safe. And yeah, just try to make the best out of a shit situation. That's what we're doing. So
even though I know people that didn't even go anywhere and got COVID, so try to stay safe, but good luck.
Oh, we're all gonna fucking get this disease and that's whatever. But
anywho, maybe we'll edit that part.
Yeah. Today, to stay on topic of our episode, is episode 16 of Murder with My Mother. You guys already know the podcast where I talk murder with my mother. So today we have Mom presenting a case for us, and this one is actually one that, again, that's why I love this, because I get to, it's an excuse to research serial killers that you don't really know much about, and I would do that without an excuse anyway, but just to actually go in, learn, kind of go do like the psychology of like learn what their upbringing was like, and obviously about trying to piece it together to make it make sense to what these people were thinking. Obviously it's never going to make sense.
Well, and also putting a face to the victims and learning, like, each time I start to research a case, I think I kind of have like a preconceived notion about said case in my head. And then by the time I'm done and it's written and I'm ready to present it, it's like nothing like I even thought. And
we just know the case now, where it's like you just know it. It's just, that's why I love it, because it's just like you and I. We sit here and we talk about murder and we talk about true crime and we do that. And I don't know, I talk about it all the time. You and I sit and talk. That's what we really talk about. So to be able to bring it to you guys and put our own spin on it and kind of, present it to you guys in a way that's, because this case, I didn't even know much about it, but so first of all, this is the oldest serial killer in Canadian history that we're about to do today. Yeah. Right?
He's a silver daddy.
He's a silvered, so we're learning a lot about other, genres of
the world.
This different world, and sexual orientations have there's different groups and different...
Yeah. So today we're delving into the world of the LGBTQ2+ community. There's a lot of other acronyms and letters that have been added, which
is awesome.
It's awesome.
Inclusion
like, just
the
fact
awesome.
that the inclusion that's happening and that has been progressively happening is just fantastic. And I've learned a lot through even researching this. Mm-hmm. And I love it. Like, I love that my brain is being fed. I'm sad that my brain is being fed with a subject matter that is delving into how people lost their lives, of course. But I mean, if I'm learning things about different communities and the victims and putting a face to the victims, I feel like that's giving things the place that they're supposed to have.
Well, that's the thing that I believe in, because I believe that if someone passes, you keep their memory alive by talking about them and discussing them and keeping them alive.
Definitely.
You're keeping the conversation alive, which in turn is bringing attention to the way that someone was taken, but the life that they lived was so much more than just the way they were taken. And I know we have said this on other episodes because we like to advocate for the victims.
And you're honoring their memory, so...
Yeah. This case brings us to Toronto and surrounding areas of Toronto, I believe. Mom will be telling the story, so let's dive right in to episode 16 of Murder with My Mother. We hope you guys enjoy.
So I'm going to start out, not at the beginning this week. I'm going to kind of spin it in a way that made sense to me, because it was kind of a hard one to wrap my head around, because it is so vast and so much had happened in between. So in July of 2017, a pretty prominent member of the gay community in the area of Wellesleyan Church in Toronto. Toronto has the biggest LGBTQ2+ neighborhood in Canada. And
I did not know that.
Yeah, so I didn't know either. And it's a pretty tight-knit community. And there's a lot of bars and bathhouses, and everyone, knows at least of each other. Like I said, the community is pretty small. And in 2017, there was a prominent member who was a bartender down in the area called The Village, named Andrew Kinsman. And he was a middle-aged man, and by all accounts, very, very responsible and predictable and fun and nice, but a very responsible man. He told his neighbor that he was going out to meet a friend for coffee. And then the next day he still wasn't home. And he had a cat that was 17 years old that he would never leave. And he was also on medication that he would never not take, because that was, like I said, the crux of his personality was that he was pretty straight-laced. His friend and his neighbors entered his place, and nothing was out of place. He just hadn't been there. So it took them a couple days. Like, they went to the police right away and reported him missing. And the police at first were hard to convince that he wasn't just gone on a vacation or gone somewhere, or, you know, had gone to sleep overnight at someone's house or
Deja vu.
whatever. The whole community stepped in because he had a lot of friends, and they were making a lot of noise about this. Like, he's missing, and they had signs and they had posters and all this stuff that was creating a lot of publicity. And the police finally started to listen. And
good for them, because that's what you need to do. You need to advocate, especially you're seeing, again, with the different types of categories of people, which that's so strange that certain people they'll investigate, certain people they won't, certain people they take kind of, okay, yeah, you know, you hear about a lot of younger people back in the day, they probably just ran away, or you know, or the murdered women that are sex workers, they live a high risk lifestyle.
Well, and that's why typically serial killers pick a marginalized group of people, because they're not going to be missed. So
they do that on purpose so that it will be less, it will be on the radar, but not really is what they're thinking. So
so that was a mistake this time, because Andrew Kinsman wasn't he was a gay male, but he was a Caucasian gay male, and he had a lot of friends, and his friends made a stink. And when the police entered his house, they looked on his day timer, which was just like a calendar on the wall, and
he strikes me as the kind of guy that would have a day timer, right, with the name written.
It's like stickers or whatever,
like exactly which time, right?
So the only thing that it said on the day that he was that he had disappeared was a name, and that name was Bruce. So police actually kind of got triggered by that, because, as we are going to find out, they had heard the name Bruce in relation to a lot of things, and this name Bruce kept coming up. Andrew's friends knew that he had been for a pretty long time in a sexual relationship with an older gentleman named Bruce McArthur. He was what was considered to be a silver fox or a silver daddy, a much older, gray-haired man with a beard. He was actually fairly sought after in the gay community.
Well, if that's the thing, because I feel like men, I mean, I don't know if this makes sense. Correct me if I'm wrong, but women are very hard on themselves, and I mean, not every woman, obviously, but
a lot of us
and like, you know, men that are straight and they're going after women, they kind of almost put every woman almost in like a certain category of, this is how you're supposed to look, this is what, you know, your breast size should be, butt size should be, you know what I mean? But it's like, I feel like in the gay community, I love this, because, you know, there's different types that are sought after. I mean, that's the same for women, you know, but like, and for other, you know, sexual orientations. But I love that, because it's like, you know, you got the bears, which is like, you know, to a woman necessarily, it's not something that they're like, oh yeah, I'm really into, you know, women don't say that as much, because there's people, the thing, beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
Totally.
Right?
And the older I get, the more I realize, like, there's different body types and different facial types. And, like, we all look the same later. So why not appreciate, like, even the fact that the dad bod is so in right now? Like, who saw that coming?
My boyfriend has a dad bod, and it's pretty sexy, so.
Yeah, it is pretty sexy. My son-in-law, hot guy.
Okay. Who looks exactly like your grandson.
I'm just kidding.
Literally. Exactly.
Trying to creep everybody out. Thomas Donald Bruce McArthur is the man that everyone was talking about suddenly, and he was born October 8th in Lindsay, Ontario, and was raised by devout religious parents that actually fostered a lot of kids, like troubled children.
Yeah, so he had a sister, and then his parents, I read that sometimes they had up to like 10 other kids in their house. So imagine having a sister and then 10 other brothers and sisters. Yeah. Because kids, when they're together, you're all, if one's your sister, one's your brother, they're all your sisters and brothers, totally. You know? So.
And his parents were like devoutly religious. His dad was super strict. He was his mama's pet. He was, a kid.
Like me.
He was
Just kidding.
considered to be a teacher's pet, and he often won singing contests. So he was quite effeminate from a young age, and apparently it caused a lot of arguments between his parents, and his mom would always stick up for him, and his dad was always, you know, really hard on him, telling him to stop being so feminine and, you know, pushing the religion and stuff. So
If I can say one thing is I love where we are getting more so in like the times we're in, because I feel like, I don't know, there's more acceptance and less, like there's more transparency about who you are. Obviously, again, it's going to go to cultural differences and some people, obviously religion, you know, you see that. But it's, I don't know, for myself, like I speak very fluid, like with my son is 9. So it's very, for me, I say like, well, one day when you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a husband and a wife, you know, I say it in passing, and it's not because for me, you're born the way you're born, right? So my son already has a sexual orientation that he's going to have for the rest of his life already. You're born that way. And so for me, I believe that if you just talk about it openly, again, as a mother, you can't just, I don't know, for me.
Like all that stuff is also like, if you are a transgendered person, and at this time in our lives, there are people whose kids know they're transgendered, which they probably always have in history, but people are celebrating that and letting kids live as they feel inside their bodies now. They're letting them actually live that in their reality. So
yeah.
I think that's probably taking away a lot of the fucked upness that...
Well, could you imagine? I mean, I never want my child to feel like if they can't be themselves with anybody, I'm his mother. So if he can't be himself with me, imagine what that would feel like to be in your body and not have that place where the place you came from and the place you came from. I know that I could tell my mom anything. I could say, I just murdered my boyfriend, and she would come and she would help me. There would be no judgment. I know that I could have.
But if it happens, I didn't help. So.
No, don't look under his tongue for the mark of the insulin needle. But no, so, you know, I just love that we're in a time where it's inclusive. Everything is for everybody. And I just love that. I love that we're getting there.
Opening up to that for sure. So it wasn't like that in those times when Bruce was growing up, because he felt so pressured in high school that he sought out a girlfriend, Janice Campbell, and he married her at age 23.
That's so sad. A beard.
Yeah. So he was beginning, he worked in the clothing industry as a buyer for Eaton's.
So he always had a good eye, I guess.
Yeah. He did that in around 1973, and right at that same time he was working like downtown in Toronto, and there was a gay village forming, the earliest one on Yonge Street between College and Wellesley. And so Bruce was like he obviously had gay tendencies, and he was basically starting to discover himself as he was downtown in the city, and he saw the gay men, and it just fit for him.
Yeah, but that's so sad, because you feel like you can't live for anybody, you know, anybody that's going through anything where they feel they have no one to talk to, or they can't be themselves and they're living all these secret lives.
Well, and Bruce actually became very, very, very involved in the church, and he overcompensated with...
You see that a lot, though.
Yeah.
You see that a lot.
So that's right there probably where there's like a break, you know?
Yeah.
It's definitely like where the psychopathy is coming in. So he began having sexual affairs with men in the early 90s, as far as we know. That's when he admits to it. He came out to his wife actually about a year after starting to have affairs with men.
As hard as that is, it must feel so good to get it off, you know, to tell somebody.
And they continued to live together. Like they had a hard time coming to terms with it, but they didn't split up right away.
And they had one son?
So they had a son and a daughter.
Okay.
His son kind of gets a little more attention because he was a disturbed kid, individual.
I read that they went broke because they
bankrupt
because they were having to pay for the lawyer fees because their son was making obscene phone calls to women and they had to get a lawyer, and so they spent all their money.
Yeah, he actually got convicted and everything.
My God.
So he definitely was a hard kid. I think the daughter was just pretty easy. I didn't really read much about her, but
in comparison, I
mean... So Bruce and his wife went bankrupt paying for lawyers because his son was making obscene phone calls. And then when all the dust settled on that, he moved to Toronto to be near the gay community. So he was close to Church and Wellesley, which was the area by that time that had come into fruition as the Village. 2001, however, we start to see a little bit of darkness happening because Bruce meets up with a male sex worker that he met on a chat line and has a sexual encounter with him. But then the man invites him over on Halloween to come and see his Halloween costume.
AKA.
Yeah, AKA for hookup. And Bruce approaches the man from behind and beats the absolute shit out of the man with a metal pipe.
Nice Halloween costume.
Yeah, like from behind without even any warning or, I mean, like, he sucker beat the guy into unconsciousness. Like, I don't know at this point.
That's a temper.
Yeah, like it wasn't even for a reason though. Like, it was like an impulse control problem. And I think that the man Bruce probably thought the guy was dead, and he left. And when the man woke up, he called 911. Like,
imagine waking up after that. Someone just beat you went over to see a Halloween costume, and
he had like a brain injury, and he had to do physio, and like, but he knew who his attacker was, and when the police approached Bruce, he admitted to it, but he didn't know why he'd done it. He said he didn't remember that they had been taking some recreational drugs. And he was also on Prozac for the last few years, and he apparently claimed that he didn't remember any of it, and he was sorry, pled guilty, and received a conditional sentence. He used a medication defense, and he was barred actually from the area of Church and Wellesley for 3 years.
It's good that they did that they barred him from an area. Like, hindsight, they should have obviously barred him for the rest of his life.
Well, the judge in the case said that he was a danger. So
he knew.
Yeah. And he had
no one just does that. You don't just do that. Like, that's a red flag.
Well, especially like,
again,
so
neon
unprovoked,
flag.
right?
Yeah.
And he was given 6 months of a curfew to be home by 11 o'clock at night and 3 years probation. And he also had to submit his DNA to a database. But the weird thing is that while all this was going on, he was asked to leave a coffee house in the area, so he wasn't staying away because he flipped out and started throwing coffee cups and like.
And the crazy thing is that was on no one's radar. Like,
everyone in the area knew that he wasn't supposed to be in the area, but then when he was allowed back in, it was like, oh my God, hi, how are you?
Hey, Bruce.
Yeah.
Damn.
So, and another odd thing was that in 2014, his record was expunged. Like, he got a pardon for it. So, the good old Canadian justice system.
In the fucking episode, the good old Canadian justice fucking.
So, Bruce was active on many gay dating sites. Grindr, Silver Daddies, like a bunch. I don't know what they're all called.
He would have been a hot shot on Silver Daddies.
Yeah, totally.
Sure. So, side note, I don't know if you were going to say this. This guy, so he was a killer, obviously, because he's on Murder with My Mother. But his side gig, his seasonal thing, he actually was a mall Santa. So
yes, he was a Santa Claus in the mall, and he actually used the profile picture on his seeking gay sex websites. One of his profile pictures was him in a Santa costume.
But you think though, okay, to make someone feel safe, kind of goes to the John Wayne Gacy thing, right?
Yeah.
Obviously creepy motherfucker, and clowns are creepy, but at the same time, okay, he was like the creepiest clown, obviously, but it's almost like la 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 fun, yeah. And so Santa, that's like the most comforting. That's the most comforting character. You know what I mean? So obviously you're gonna kind of drop your.
It's weird though, because he was looking to dominate. Like, he was a dominant partner looking for submissive males. Like, I want Santa to fucking
just rail me,
pillage me. Like, oh my God.
Yeah. I'm not on that
maybe
page.
I'll get to that page. I don't know.
I don't know.
I am
feet and other, I don't know. No, not getting there for me. But so hey, each their own. I don't know.
His profiles also had a lot of pictures of him with younger, hot South Asian males, like on vacation and like shirtless and at pools, and like
he had a type for sure.
He definitely had a type. So he was operating a landscaping company, and he employed a lot of new immigrants to the country, like a lot of people from Sri Lanka, Afghanistan, Turkey. And
with such an ulterior motive, like you're gonna fuck all your employees.
Well, the thing is that we're talking about marginalized communities, and a lot of the men that Bruce targeted were gay men from these devout Muslim communities, Muslim countries, people that actually came to Canada to seek asylum and safety and be able to be who they were, because as a gay male growing up in a culture that's a Muslim culture, you're going to be killed by your relatives if you come out as gay.
One of the victims, I read that someone had just said he fled Iran. He wasn't from there, but he fled Iran because someone said to him, either change your ways, which, that's obviously can't happen because, like I said, you're born like that. So he said either, like, find God or leave. And the guy was like, right to Canada. Because, imagine, like I said, it's hard growing up in Canada with a family like that. Imagine if you're in a country where it's one of the devout religions says that what you're doing is a sin and that's just who you are. So, yeah.
So one of the men that he had employed, his name was Skanda Navaratnam. He worked for Bruce and he was known to have a sexual relationship with Bruce, and he mysteriously went missing in 2010. And another man of the same description, his name was Basim Faizi. He went missing also in 2010. And in 2012, there was a man that could have been their triplet. They were all South Asian men, slight builds with goatees. The third man's name was Hamid Kahan. And they all went missing from 2010 to 2012. So all three of them. And there was posters up. And obviously in the community, when you start seeing missing posters and everyone looks exactly the same as each other.
Well, it's not hard to say. Like,
it's
someone's got,
there's
someone's out there. And there's a predator that's clearly, if you look like that, I mean, and you're in that community, you were probably a little bit worried, obviously.
Yeah, so everyone that was a community down in the village started to say, there's a serial killer. They were telling the police, like, there has to be a serial killer. These men are going missing, and you guys aren't doing anything about it. The fact that they're of South Asian descent and the fact that they're gay men, you guys are not doing anything about it.
No, and think about it. They probably didn't have very much family here to advocate for them either, because they're alone in this country.
And actually, 2 of the 3 men that had gone missing, Skanda was the first one. He was really out, and he was apparently such a gregarious character and such a nice, happy, friendly guy. Like, everyone loved him. Outgoing, extroverted. He apparently wore like all kinds of cool jewelry. His fashion sense was great. Like, he was a real character. So he was like, a lot of people noticed when he went missing. But the other 2 men that had gone missing, they were actually both fairly closeted still. Like, they'd come with their families, with their wives and children. And one of them had moved away from their wife and children, but still they didn't come out to their children.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one was still living with his wife and children.
Probably, again, with the beard, using the, obviously. If anyone doesn't know what a beard is, it's the term used as basically someone in another sexual orientation, a gay man, using a woman as a disguise to hide their sexuality.
Yeah.
So it's, a beard. I like beard because a beard really does hide a dude's face. Like, if you see a guy and he's got a beard and then he takes his beard off and you're like, Jesus, like, you look really different. It's like makeup for a girl.
Yeah.
And so, that's what
it's contouring. They call it contouring for men.
So if you are a gay man and you're living a closeted life and you feel like, having a wife would make you appear less gay, basically. Yeah. So,
well, you're not ready to come out.
No, and exactly. That's why again, I love that we're getting to the point where people shouldn't have to come out. They should just be out for their whole lives,
For sure. The police at the same time were listening to all of this, and something had come up online. There was a rumor, and they went online and they saw this blog post that was all about, someone had written it saying that they had killed and cannibalized a South Asian gay man in the city of Toronto. So the police were like,
alert,
fuck.
Alert.
Like, this shit's crazy. So they started a special task force called Project Houston in 2013 to investigate this. And the fucked up thing is, is that Bruce's name came into play with the investigations of the missing men, but he admitted to knowing 2 of them, and he admitted that he had a sexual relationship with Skanda, but he had broken it off. But the police were unable to find any evidence that these men were even dead. They couldn't find any evidence that any crime had even been committed. So they stopped the task force. They broke up the task force quietly in 2014.
It's hard to pin any crime on anybody if there's no body because there's no evidence. And
Yeah.
that's like circumstantial. So it's just based on circumstance if you can't, because they don't even know if these people are dead.
And the thing that's also hard with the marginalized community is even the members of their own community were saying things like, the rumors that were started were like, oh, this person got deported, or oh, this person went back to their family, or this person,
which is
blah,
probably
blah, blah.
exactly why he targeted that group of people.
Oh,
because,
100%.
Right? You never know. Oh, they just actually, you could literally say, oh, actually, yeah, he actually went back to his country, told me he went back to his country.
Yeah.
Like,
so that brings us, like, flash forward now to 2017. Right before Andrew Kinsman went missing, another man called Salim Essen, who was also a South Asian male, had gone missing from the area also. And so now there's 2 more people missing in 2017, and talk starts up again. Like, there's a serial killer, there's a serial killer, there's a serial killer.
The police need to put their fucking hearing aids on.
So the police started a new task force in 2017, within 2 months of Andrew going missing. And this was called Project Prism. And they had Bruce on their radar at this point, but they were still giving press conferences saying, like, there's not a serial killer. They said there's no evidence at this point of there being a serial killer in the village.
I understand when cops do that because they don't want to strike panic, but I always believe that panic and being aware and being informed is a better tool for your survival, because you're actually, because some people are like, la 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 la. If you are just happen to hear, okay, there's a serial killer targeting men or even South Asian men, and you are a South Asian man that frequents the village, you might be able to better prepare yourself. But I mean, if they're just going to deny, obviously I do see both sides, but at the same time I have my opinion. So
and we're also seeing it after the fact, so hindsight is 20/20.
Yeah, exactly.
So the police set up Project Prism, and they started surveilling Bruce. And they actually went pretty far surveilling him. They were outside of his place, and they actually got into his van and checked it out.
Is that
legal? Got some
samples.
Yeah, they had some I can't remember what it's called, but they had certain warrants that allowed them to do it kind of on the DL.
Okay.
Because they also got into his computer and cloned it.
Oh, well, yeah. You know what? It's 2021. It's probably easy to do shit like that.
So they had all of this info, and they had this feeling.
I can barely turn a computer on.
So they had this feeling that it could happen, that they could catch him in the act. So they were just surveilling him right now till they had enough evidence, because obviously if you don't have enough evidence, you can't take stuff to court, and then the person gets away, and it's like a big shit show. So they had no bodies.
If you get tried, double jeopardy, because if you get tried for something and they present all the facts that they have, they can't retry you if you're found not guilty. So.
Exactly. So
gotta be on your shit.
While they were sitting outside of his apartment surveilling him, they saw him go in with a young man. And by the time they agreed to go in, the man was hogtied, naked, handcuffed to the bed in a sexual position. And so they caught him in the act. But
that's hard, because did they catch him in the act of killing, or did they catch him in the act of just sex?
So, I mean, we all know that Brucey liked his sex like that anyway. Yeah. I mean, Santa fucking diddler. But anyway, they released the man. They arrested Bruce. They went through his apartment, and they had gotten a bunch of DNA evidence from his vehicle, and they found a bunch of stuff in his apartment when they went through it, when they got the search warrant and arrested him. He had folders on each of his victims with photograph trophies.
Never fails.
And also, the fucked up thing, and this guy, John, was like the luckiest human on the planet, because John was the guy that was hogtied when they busted in. he had a folder with John's name on it that was still empty.
Oh.
Yeah.
So John was next.
Poor John.
Poor John.
Well, not poor John, because he got... Poor everyone else.
No, poor everyone else, but that's traumatic to live through and know that, okay, a serial killer was just about to kill you.
Yeah.
That's, yeah.
From all of the evidence they got from his van and from his apartment, and of course Bruce's DNA was also cataloged from that time that he
did the weird
did. Also,
Halloween
I forgot
costume.
to say, in 2016, Bruce, a man called 911 and said that a man named Bruce, who had a landscaping company, had attempted to strangle him in his van, and he got away. And no charges were even pressed, and nothing was even done. Like, there could have been several people saved if they had just listened to that report.
Well, but that's like, that's why you see police work is obviously very important, but communicating because it's probably not the same jurisdiction.
It was the same jurisdiction.
Oh God, I'm trying to make excuses for them, but damn,
it's okay.
no.
Okay. Nobody's perfect. I mean, that's one thing.
Nobody's
I just think,
perfect,
like,
but damn, like.
Yeah, but I mean, if your work is put under that much scrutiny and your hands are tied by certain things, like, who knows?
Yeah, but the name Bruce, like, this guy's got like a fucking highlighter on the top of his head right now, like Bruce this, Bruce that, Bruce this. Bruce
One
that.
thing I will say about Bruce is once they started to piece stuff together, he pretty much fessed up and came clean. Police started the biggest investigation in Toronto police history. They had gone to a bunch of Bruce's landscaping sites, and they had found that one, above all else, which was a family friend from when he was young, that he was storing his tools and doing all the gardening at this lady's house named Karen. He had stored the dismembered body parts of many of his victims in plant pots at her house and in a ravine behind her house.
That's the part about this case that was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
So he's a landscaper who dresses like Santa in the off season and is putting the body parts of these missing men into pots that he is gardening.
Well, and Karen thought he was great. Like, he did such a good job on their yard, and like they had beautiful gardens. And Karen Fraser was just like, couldn't talk highly enough about him. Like, he was a kind man and he was so great and he supported all these immigrants and all this stuff. And then come to find out that all of their bodies
were in her yard.
The bodies of 7 people were found at Karen's house in plant pots and in a ravine and dug in her garden.
This Karen had the wrong name, because usually Karens are like Karen.
I know.
They're Karen about shit that ain't their business, and she was not Karen about even her own backyard.
Oh, but Karen was like a retired lady, and she had a cabin out there, like a lake cabin. So they would just give Bruce free run of the property whenever they went out of town. Like, basically, it's cool because Bruce is watching their house and burying fucking bodies in their yard, but she didn't know that part.
But again, that might be why, if they did look into Bruce after, they could be like, oh no, well, if you got a character reference, like, no, Bruce is great. Like, totally. I could see, obviously, people, that's the psychopathy, right? You can kind of swindle and you can manipulate people to believe you are who you want them to think you are.
Of course. And so it came to fruition that they found the DNA of 8 people, 7 of whom they were able to identify. So they identified Skanda Navaratham. So he was 40 and he was last seen at Zippers, leaving with an unknown male, which was a gay club. So we know about Skanda. That was 2010. He was from Sri Lanka. In 2010, who we've already touched on as well, Bazir Faizi. He was reported missing in December by friends. In October of 2012, Majid Kayhan, who was from Afghanistan, he was reported missing by his son, and he was still married to his wife. August 2015, Sarush Mahmoodi, who was a married painter, he was reported missing by his family, and his family didn't even know that he was frequenting that area at all.
That must be hard, because it's like, 2 double whammies, like your father's missing and you find out that he's been a closeted gay man. Like, that's hard.
Yeah. So April 2017, Salim Essen, 44, and he was of Turkish descent, and he was reported missing. Also in August of 2017, where we started our story, was Andrew Kinsman, who everyone went to bat for. Then there were a couple men that actually were not even reported missing at all. One man, Karush Nakumar, he was from Sri Lanka and he was never reported missing. He was kind of just on his own, had immigrated from Sri Lanka.
Probably exactly what Bruce was looking for. Someone with no ties, someone that kind of didn't, if all his victims had been someone like that, he probably would still have gotten away with it.
Well, and then there was another one, Dean Libowitz, and he was a homeless man with
Lissawick, I think.
He was a homeless man with mental health issues and addiction issues, and nobody reported him missing either. I heard an interview with his daughter, and she said he was like prolifically on the street, and no one really ever heard from him anyway. So the fact that his remains were found was a surprise to everybody.
Yeah, because if someone's living a transient lifestyle, we've touched on other episodes,
yeah,
it's harder to know, okay, are they just away living their life, or are they, obviously you're worrying about their safety, all that, but when someone does have, that's their norm, then, it's not out of the norm because they're just missing all the time.
So that was 8 men in the span of 8 years, and those are the ones that we know about. The police actually were looking into, I guess there was a lot of murders in the gay area also in the 70s that were never solved.
Oh.
And Bruce is old enough
to have done those.
And that would have actually been like a little more normalized for him to do it at that age, because most serial killers don't start killing when they're 58 years old, or however old he was supposedly was when he started being a serial killer. That's not proven, and it's hearsay, and, hopefully one day they figure it out and give honor to those people that were lost in the 70s, for sure. One good thing Bruce did do is he just admitted to everything, pled guilty to absolutely everything, and did not put the families of his victims through any kind of a trial. So,
piece of shit, but not a piece of shit when it counted to kind of make it right, I guess. Not make it right, but
it would have never had to have been done if he hadn't murdered everybody. But he didn't say, I didn't do that, and put everybody through the details
or just deny it. Exactly.
Yeah. So that was the case of Bruce McArthur, the landscape killer, the Santa Claus Silver Daddy. And
that's what we should call this episode. Santa Claus Silver Daddy.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I really enjoyed that episode because I didn't know much about this case. And again, as someone that prides themselves on knowing all the cases that are this is this is the oldest serial killer in Canada.
And it's recent. It's recent. He just was convicted in 2018. They just started the investigation. It was kind of all a little hush hush, really.
It was.
I heard a little bit about it, but
not really.
Not the amount that we should have heard about it, because it was such a marginalized group of victims, and it was the LGBT 2+Q community, and it was a lot of new immigrants to our country, and
it's just a combo that's, obviously that man manipulated, and it turned out deadly. Yeah. So I guess kind of shows, obviously if some people don't have anyone to pay attention, because some people don't, to your neighbors that maybe look like they're alone, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And I think right now, to kind of go back to where we started from, is there are a lot of people alone right now. And I don't know if we even could think of someone that we could contact that's alone, just to see how they're doing in this time. Not saying that they've been murdered by Bruce or anything, but just in case they're having a hard time. I think everyone's going a little bit crazy right now at this stage of a year into the pandemic, and no one's, especially senior citizens and people that live alone, have not had a lot of contact in the last year. So please, if you know someone, give a little extra care and love and reach out a little more. A phone call, a note dropped at the door, whatever it takes.
A bird, fly a note, a carrier, pigeon carrier.
My neighbor has Persian pigeons, so we could just break in. And
perfect.
He told me all about them, but I don't really know how they work.
Well, that's probably the first thing. You do your Persian pigeon research, and then we'll send in Mugga some letters.
Mugga, watch out for a Persian pigeon coming to your yard.
Oh. Well,
anyway, thank you for listening.
Thank you for that episode. That was great.
Good.
Very well done, Mother. Very well done. So everybody, remember the key points. Stay safe, wash your hands, don't murder anybody. And if you do, you will be on probably an episode of Murder with My Mother. So whether...
You could like pre-write out the episode before you do it, but that would probably prove premeditation.
Yeah, and then we'd probably be tied into that somehow. So never mind.
Never mind.
The last thing I need is to go to jail right now. So, so yeah, everybody, we hope you guys hang in there. We know that obviously this set of restrictions has kind of hit everybody a little hard because everyone's just sick of it. But hang through. We got it. We'll be okay. Everybody's in this together. And yeah, we hope that we're bringing some kind of joy to your guys' lives with our banter. Obviously, our banter's not on the most... This subject's not for everybody, but...
It's not as uplifting as it could be, but I do believe it's very interesting and it teaches us a lot.
And it's about the delivery, so here we are, delivering. So...
Yeah. We also give you tips that might save your fucking life one
day. Yeah, the fucking PSAs. We haven't done a good PSA in a while, so PSA...
Don't go with a silver daddy Santa Claus from the internet.
Or do, but not Bruce McArthur, because you can't give all the silver daddies a bad name, right? Anyway, we love you guys, and we will see you we never will see you. You will hear us in 2 weeks, and hang in there. So until next time, this is Murder with My Mother, the true crime podcast where I talk murder with my mother.
Love you.
Love you guys. Bye, guys.
Bye.